Welcome to our final episode of Buff Sports Live. I'm Christina Robin.
And I'm Vinay Simlot. Today we are coming to you from our brand new state-of-the-art studio. You'll get to see more of that next year.
Vinay, the studio is not the only thing that's different in today's show. We have a special edition of Buff Sports Live for you.
As your outgoing seniors, we thought we would share some of our memories of CU sports over the past 4 or 5 years. We'll start in 2016 with football. That's when I got here. It was a magical season. During Welcome Week, head coach Mike MacIntyre promised our freshman class that we would make it to a bowl game. Nobody believed him because, well, he used to say that every year. But behind quarterback Sefo Liufau, running back Phil Lindsay, and an experienced defensive back core, the Buffs started rolling. They called it The Rise, the first winning season in more than a decade, and a bowl berth for the Buffaloes. The Rise also led to my favorite line from Mike MacIntyre to his players.
You're my dream.
They were his dream, but then they turned into his nightmare. Buffs fans were expecting a lot out of Colorado in 2017. Who wouldn't? Steven Montez was the new quarterback, Phil Lindsay was back, and there was a ton of optimism for the season. But as we saw on my first time on camera, do you think the team will be ranked by the end of the season?
I think we could slip in maybe between the 20th to 25th spot, but it will be a lot of work for us to get into that.
I think they're looking very good. I think they could be top 10 and win the conference easily.
Of the season.
If they're not number one, then something's wrong, man. If they're not number one, then something's wrong. That's all I got to say.
Long way to go, a lot of new players, hoping top 15.
How do you think the Buffs will be ranked by the end of the season?
Number one, baby.
And go Chip.
Yeah. As you can see, most people were optimistic about the team, especially with the quarterback and running back. The atmosphere at the game was incredible. Yeah, Tina, I did not know what to do with my hands in that situation.
Well, I think you figured out that they go from the back to the front, so that's
Yes.
good. And 2017 did not turn out as everyone had hoped. Steven Montez had some growing pains. Philip Lindsay was outstanding, but not enough to win games. The Buffs ended up 5-7 and missed the bowl game.
And in 2018, it was the same thing, a disappointing season capped off by an ugly loss to Oregon State, who at the time was considered the worst team in all of the Power Five. Colorado was up 31-3 in the second half, and they lost.
And that seemed like the beginning of the end for Mike MacIntyre here at Colorado. The Buffs lost 3 straight games after Oregon State. And Coach MacIntyre had one of the most bizarre press conferences we have ever seen.
Yeah, he insisted he wasn't worried about his job. He should have been. And he brought out a picture of a buffalo, which we at Buff Sports Live had to replace with other pictures. Take a look. So Coach MacIntyre gets fired. They hire Mel Tucker, the hot new coach from the SEC, who coached in the national championship. I interviewed him when he first got here and blanked while he was talking.
Had 2 boys, Joseph, who was 16. He's a junior in high school, and then Christian, who's 14. Joseph plays soccer. Christian is lacrosse and football, and they both have a birthday coming up February 18th.
They're twins?
They're not twins, they're 2 years apart.
But same day?
Same day.
Wow.
It's called organization and attention to detail. You know, let's get it done.
Yeah, so I was focused on my questions there, and I obviously missed that his sons were 14 and 16 and not twins, Tina.
I mean, maybe they came out at separate times and were conceived at the same time. We don't know.
But it was funny that he said attention to detail because he had them on the same day, 2 years apart, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's awesome, for sure. But the best memory from Mel Tucker's season was when Colorado beat Nebraska in a sea of red here at Folsom Field. But it went downhill from there. The Buffs missed another bowl game, and then Mel Tucker left in kind of an upsetting way. Zoe Paulson will fill us in on how that all went down.
Hi everyone, this is Zoe Paulson with Buff Banner. Now I may not be as old as Vinay and Christina, but I distinctly remember when Mel Tucker left the Buffs. It was past midnight in my dorm room, and I heard my phone buzz 100 times next to my bed. I picked it up and I heard the news. It was truly unfortunate, and I was upset and worried for our team. But the funny part about this was that the texts I received that night were all memes. From several different group chats on several different platforms, I received more and more memes. Mel Tucker memes blasted their way across the entire campus. Our football team may have been doomed, but at least the students of CU had a fun time with it.
All right, thank you, Zoe.
Vinay and I may be a little bit older than Zoe, but guess who's older?
Steve Jones?
No. Actually, Tad Boyle, who's been here longer than both of us combined. We'll talk about basketball up next.
Now walking into the classroom at 6'1", 235 pounds, Brendan Mackey.
Dude.
D still sends Galen a friend request. Denied by Galen. Margolis on his way to class. Well, Stern slowly in front of him. Margolis jukes, splits the defense, and he's home free.
What are you doing, dude?
Gruber, O'Brien with speed on the backhand towards the net. O'Brien scores! What a goal, Luke O'Brien! Drove wide on the backhand, towed it back to the forehand, and went.
In 2016, CU fans got their first introduction to the husband-wife duo newly hired to coach women's basketball. That's head coach J.R. Payne and her husband, associate head coach Toriano Towns. And I got my first introduction to men's basketball head coach Tad Boyle and his frank press conferences. Media Day was my first time hearing from Tad Boyle. Take a look.
If I had to describe our team in one word, it would be overrated. We're not consistent enough to be considered a upper tier Pac-12 team right now. That's today, October, whatever.
Yeah, overrated, Tina, and it sounded like that's how they turned out.
Yeah, and in the 2016-2017 season, the men's basketball team's losing streak hit 7 games. The Buffs finished with the lowest winning percentage in the past 5 years. The women's team rounded up their troops to walk out of the season with a winning record of 17 wins and 16 losses. Now, we don't know if Vinay planted a bad seed, but when I showed up, a seemingly lucky turn of events emerged, with a new squad of basketball players appearing on campus.
Yeah, several program-influencing players arrived in 2017. McKinley Wright, Tyler Bay, Maya Hollingshed, Annika Jank. There are even a few 2017 roster members we still saw this year, including Evan Batty, Dallas Walton, Deshaun Schwartz, and Aubrey Knight.
Back when we didn't have to stay within a 6-foot distance of each other, one of our favorite pastimes was interviewing random people on the fly. Take a look.
Hi folks, I'm Christina Robin reporting with Buff Sports Live, and we're going to do Man on the Street. Let's talk to a couple Buffs. What can you tell me about this persona you're putting on?
Yeah, so I started learning football. It was a Halloween game. I came in a costume, and then all my friends were like, yeah, you should put on a mask, start an Instagram, try and get Instagram famous, go to every single game, meet new people, grow the Instagram. That's what I've just been doing ever since then.
Why have you only been to 3 basketball games?
Well, I was a college student. I'm very busy.
What was your favorite part about today's game?
Just the spirit. Everybody's always so excited. I love the band. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm Christina Robin reporting for Buff Sports Live. Back to the desk.
Christina asking the tough questions. Why have you only been to 3 games?
Well, I mean, I did know him in advance, and he said it was okay if I pestered him a little bit. But even though sports are just fun and games, to some super fans like Betty Hoover and Peggy Copham, CU Athletics meant the passion, devotion, and loyalty to their school. For 80 years, they've supported the Buffs through every win and loss until last fall when Betty passed. One of my favorite memories was getting to interview the twins, who were so kind-hearted, honest, and basically icons to the CU community. And if Betty won't be there in person, we can guess she'll still be there in spirit.
Up next, we'll have trivia questions and a look at our journey with the less popular sports. Stay tuned.
They were nervous and inexperienced, as new faces looking to achieve greatness. As the years went on, they grew confident in their abilities.
Maybe. Yes, sir!
Now they look to guide others in the same pursuit.
There it is! Can you believe it?
All are welcome to be featured on the biggest stage.
Is it his time?
We invite you to discover what you're capable of at Buff Sports Live.
So when we think college sports, personally, the first thought in my mind is football, basketball, but when I first came to CU, my heart was still tied to volleyball. One of the best college experiences I had was getting to shoot CU's volleyball team for Buff Vision through a class I took. And even as a non-revenue sport, it will always be one of my favorites to watch because I played for so many years, and as many of you know, the sports, you know them a little bit better from the inside out, and it's easier to digest and rehash that knowledge to others who may not be as familiar, such as my co-producer Vinay.
I was not as familiar as you, Tina. I wasn't a pro. I had never seen a volleyball or a lacrosse game before covering them here at CU. And the first time we did a successful live shot was when CU hosted the Lacrosse Pac-12 tournament back in 2018. I pretended like I knew what I was talking about while doing my best Jack Stern impression. Take a look.
After this big game for the Buffs, what's next for the Colorado Buffaloes?
Well, after this win, I'd get a ride over to Silver Mines to celebrate. But after that, they're going to play the winner of USC versus Stanford. The game right now is tied up in the first half with 20 minutes to go. Last time they played Stanford, they won 11-10. And the last time they played USC, Brendan, you'll remember this. This was that snowy Friday afternoon where they won 10-7.
Oh, yeah, I will not forget that game. Vinay, go get your sandwich and hurry back over here so you make it for the end of the show.
Yeah, Jack Stern was the lower third there. I obviously am not Jack Stern, but he had an issue where he couldn't be at the show that day.
And now it's time for our first ever episode of Buff Sports Live Jeopardy! I'm your host, Troy Finnegan, and since Vinay and Christina think they know everything about CU sports after their 4 years, we're going to put them to the test. Here's how it works. Everybody asks the contestants one question, and each question is worth 1 point. Best of luck. Vinay, Christina, my question for you is, there are 2 CU Buffs football coaches who are undefeated in bowl games. Who are they?
I'm going to say Bill McCartney and Gary Barnett.
Mel Tucker.
Guy never made it
Mike
to a
McIntyre.
bowl. Who
made
was
it to a bowl and lost.
Okay, I didn't know either of them. Who's next?
Hello, my name's Jared Miller. The last 4 years for the Buffs football team hasn't been the greatest. What was their record in those last 4 years?
All right.
Did we win
My
like
guess is
6 games this season and lost 3?
My guess is 21 and
27.
29. My guess is 21 and 29.
21 and 28.
Oh, we played way more games, or way less games, yeah.
Hello, I'm Gus Oswald. Vinay and Christina, my question is for you. In 2017 in McKinley Wright's freshman year, what team did they beat with his buzzer beater to avoid an early season scare?
Oh, I know this one. This was Quinnipiac. McKinley hit a buzzer beater. Paradise Jam tournament. It was supposed to be held in the Bahamas. They held it in Lynchburg, Virginia instead.
Yeah, it's the Commonwealth, so of course Vinay knows. All right, so if you haven't walked long enough down our memory lane, be prepared to sprint through the last 4 years. Up next.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them. Beat them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a
One
dad
more
today.
time. Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys.
As we close out our final episode of Buff Sports Live, Christina and I have so many fond memories of the work we did here and the stupidity that we put on the internet. One of my favorite segments was Gourmet Vinay, a segment where we made food while talking about sports. Our first time actually making food was for the 2018 lacrosse season. Lena Takahashi and I made cupcakes. The actual broadcast looked seamless, but we had one really bad blooper that's never been seen.
Cheers. And then we put on our CU logo on the very top.
Okay, got a CU logo right there.
And there it is.
How's mine look? How does Lena's look?
Well, it all is going to taste the same, so it's all that matters.
It's all that matters. We got a little frosting on there. We'll wrap it up. This has been Gourmet Vinay. Making cupcakes. Back to you.
We were so close, Vinay!
I was saying we'll wrap it up.
What are we wrapping up the cupcakes in?
Oh my gosh.
We're done! Nathan was on fire, you were on fire, she was on fire, and then Vinay broke.
So what happened was, our friend Bobby Galen was looking at me and telling me, wrap it up. But he was crouched down super low and exaggerating it, so I just kind of froze and laughed. But you'll see, if you watch the clip, that Drew Tornquist, our photographer, had already zoomed way out, so he had already ruined that take. It wasn't my fault. I've taken the fall for 4 years, but it wasn't my fault.
And even though Vinay prefers food over sports,
yes, correct.
My favorite memories happened in a little bit of a different way than most people. Usually their sports dreams happen when they're at a special event, like a game, or when they get to meet their favorite athlete. But mine started when I watched my dad coaching basketball. I've spent my entire life playing sports, and I can attribute my passion for competition to my father, who was a Division I athlete, coach, and my greatest influence. Sharing this moment with him on Folsom Field was one I will never forget, because the man who got me interested in sports was right by my side as my dreams turned reality. Here's that stand-up from 2019. Colorado is coming off a massive win against the number 24 previously ranked Sun Devils. After a bye week, they're back home at Folsom Field to take on U of A, who happens to be leading the conference in yards per game and rushing yards. Now, for some comedic entertainment, I thought I would add my very first shot I ever recorded for Buff Sports Live.
Hello, and welcome back to Buff Sports Live. I'm Christina Robin with Buff Banter to tell you about the upcoming spring football schedule. The first practice session of the spring will begin on Monday, March 18th, with a spring game set to follow on Saturday, April 27th at noon. You'll remember that the spring game last year was held on St. Patrick's Day, but Coach Mel wanted to push it back. The team is in the process of a 9-week program with 15 practices, not including strength and conditioning. The NCAA only allows contact in 12 of the team's 15 practices, and the first 2 practices of the spring must be no contact. Spring break is not included in the 29 days of preparation, so the team can soak up some sun to reboot before they return to the field ready to dominate. The spring game gives Tucker a chance to showcase his skills to the Colorado fan base. He hopes to show a team of disciplined and prepared players. He stresses the importance of position-specific training and strength and conditioning to ensure that players know what's expected of them. The Buffs will hit the field running, with some of their key players becoming upperclassmen, but can also include early enrollment freshmen. Attendance is free for spring ball, so swing by and watch the Buffs as it starts to warm up. Are you ready for some football?
And finally, as we wind down here in our last episode, we want to thank everyone who's been watching us this season and everyone who's standing right here.
Yeah, we want to thank all of our team. You guys see them all behind us, who you see back here, for working so hard every week to put on a great show.
And honestly, I don't know what we would do without you guys, and they brought us cookies today, and that was super sweet. So to all of our current and former Buff Sports Live members who guided myself and Vinay and became our friends and taught us all so much, you all have a very special place in all of our hearts.
And we'd like to thank Brett Mann for letting us use the studio, Ben Pitzer and Emily Johnson for all of the technical support and education they've given us over the years.
And finally, we want to thank Charlie Mangano, who took over BSL this semester as our sponsor. We're so grateful to have him. And of course, Steve Jones for putting up with us for 4 or 5 years now.
Yes, 5 years now. That's Christina Robin. I'm Vinay Simlat signing off for the final time. They will see you all next year. Ready?